4 different distributors here. I hope one of these guys works. Here is a Mercury 1970-75 4-cylinder engine with a switch box that's the 3213. And this is from a CDI troubleshooting guide. And we want to troubleshoot our trigger. If you notice, warning, do not connect 12 volts to ignition module, as DC voltage will severely damage the switch box and the ignition driver. You'll notice that then it gives you some stuff, but what we want to look for is we're going to read from the red to the white wire. Alright, and we're going to be cranking. So it's going to give us a resistance of 400 ohms. And the voltage, it says DVA connected, but you can do it with a regular digital meter. It'll say 180 volts to 400 volts. So we'll connect the DVA just to prove this. Alright, and then we're going to read from the blue wire to the white wire, which is the high-speed winding. Should be 10 ohms. And we should have a voltage between 25 and 100 volts. And then lastly, we're going to read, should be 100 on the green, should be 150 volts. Now that's with the switch box connected. Okay, and then the white wire is common for ignition driver, does not connect to engine ground. So there's our readings, and then on a switch box you got a blue, you got a red, you got a white. So that white they're saying is common. This came off the engine. I got 3 more sitting here. I got a meter, digital voltmeter. I got a drill with 5/16 driver on it. And those are for the nuts. Got one there, got one there, got one there. Don't have one on top because I had to borrow one. So we're going to check our trigger. So I got an impact gun to get them off, but I use a drill to turn them. So you just put your drill on there and then we're going to read from our CDI troubleshooting guide and try to figure out what the voltages are. So, digital voltmeter, DVA adapter. If you look in the troubleshooting guide, it says DVA. Don't get confused. If we put this on there, it's going to show us like 800 volts between red and white. But if we just use a regular DVA meter, it's going to read a lot less. Alright, I'm checking red to white. This is on an old distributor. I just got to try to keep it steady, but so it's about 185 volts. So if I hook up my direct voltage adapter onto this, it's showing 800 volts. In that troubleshooting guide, use a digital voltmeter. You know, if you think about it, 1970 and 1975, they didn't have direct voltage adapters yet. If we go from our red to our blue, 180 volts, say 160 volts, and that should be correct. So then if we go from white to blue, 16 volts. Alright, so now that that's an old distributor, let's go back to the one that was on the engine. It'll get the bolt off, because they'll still want to spin it. So I got it going backwards. Bam, it comes right off. Then I'll put it in my other one over here. We're just doing the same thing on another distributor. We want to know if they pass or they fail. Alright, here we go. 190. And then we're going to go from red to blue. Say 170. We're still within our voltage, because as long as it's up to 400 volts, you're fine. And then we're going to go from blue to white. And this should be our about 16 volts. Because on the blue, it's saying 25 to 100 volts. So far I've had 2 of them that were 16. So let's check the next one. Let's just see. Here's the next distributor. I'm going to go from blue to white. 16 volts. We'll go red to white on this distributor, see if it's good. 169. Yep. Now, when I did that, of course, you know, that's where this piece goes on top. So what I'm talking about here is this piece. This is on top of here, so it's just removed. That's how I do them. It's just testing your trigger, make sure your triggers are alright. And just so you know, inside of here, we got 2 coils. We got a green and a red. The book, I think it shows blue and red for whatever reason. And anyway, this is the one I kind of started to rebuild, but really didn't have the right size line. This is too thick a line. I gotta have much smaller to do this right. And then, but you got a red, and then you got, they say in a book, a blue is the high speed. I think that's wrong too. I think your red's your high speed, and your green is your low speed. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. One or the other. But it doesn't matter because you know the right wiring, so as long as you hook up red to your red coil and blue to your blue coil and white is your... Alright, here's our Merc 500 alternator driver ignition system. And this is showing you the circuit. You got a high speed coil, you got a low speed coil. They're saying blue, red, low speed. So these are your transformer magnets on the driver, and so you got signal, neutral, signal, neutral, signal, neutral. And so we look at the circuit. We got red comes over to a diode circuit, white comes over to a diode circuit, and that goes to ground. So this is the capacitor feed. So they're saying between here and here is 140 volts. So if these two are combined, they're going through here, up through a diode, through a capacitor, over to here. Then our blue is coming over and is the signal to the switch box. The diode circuit and the switch box are in the box. So following this, we got a ground, but this is our feed. So this is a kind of a loop. They're saying it should be like 140 volts. So we're thinking peak to peak or RMS. So when we got 16 volts, remember it doesn't show that here because that's what the blue line is doing. It's powering up the switch box. So what I'm thinking is we got peak to peak and we got RMS voltage. I think when we're using our meter, we're getting an RMS voltage, and I think our peak to peak is a little bit higher. So when we got 16 volts, our peak to peak is probably more like 22 to 24 volts AC, not DC. Once we get through the switch box and the capacitor discharges, then we're probably at a 22 volt AC to the coil, because the coil won't pass DC, it only is going to do AC. So from the coil to ground, right here, between these two right here, which is going to be green and ground, and so your ground point is right here. Through that coil, we should have at least, I'm thinking, 22 volts. And then that's going to go to our distributor, to our plug wires. It says up to 40,000 volts. And then it shows 1 revolution. So it says driver voltage between either red or blue wires relative to blue. This is our charging, discharge, charging, discharge, charging, discharge, charging, discharge. But this may be, like, because it's alternating, so if we really read it correctly, it's probably it says 1, 2, 3, 4. So, but that's our like, think about our waveform. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our waveform. So it's charging, discharges. So this is actually, I think, when it fires. Charging, discharge, fire. Charging, discharge, fire. Charging, discharge. Then charging back to 1.
I used to hear them talking, the stories they tell, hanging out and sitting around in heartbreak hell. I could see that this ain't no place for me. And then my story became